last fact. Final Fantasy Type-0 had the distinction of being the other game under Square Enix's crowned franchise that never saw the light of day outside Japan. Yet fans of the franchise not only clamored for the title to be released in some form or another, but some also went far as to do a fan translation of the game so English-speaking members of the community can further enjoy the title. Now, more than 3 years have passed, and the very same game that eluded fans for so long has finally arrived. And as an added bonus, it is now available in glorious HD, both for the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One. You control a group of elite soldiers known as Class 0, young and gifted soldiers assigned to perform vital missions for the Dominion of Rubrum, led by Ace, the card-wielding expert. Along with a varied and wacky cast of characters, you handle various threats that may hinder the Dominion during unstable times. You see, the story takes place in the land known as Orients, brimming with a landscape torn by war and political instability between 4 different nations, namely Rubrum, specializing in magic, the Molestia Empire, masters of science, the Kingdom of Concordia, wielder of dragons, and the Lorican Alliance, the shield expert. When the Molestia Empire, led by Sid Alstein, decided to invade the other nations of Orients upon attacking the Dominion, Class 0 sprang into action and stopped the Empire from further invading their territory. Class 0 becomes involved in the middle of a 4-nation struggle that involves the overpowered Lucy or Lucy, a familiar term from the Final Fantasy XIII games, chaos and the very real fear of death, and hope in the midst of despair. For a game that may very well have one of the most number of playable characters in the single FF game, the combat system really did this justice. The RPG elements that made Final Fantasy is still present, but the emphasis on fast and action-paced gameplay while implementing strategy makes this a game of its own. While you get to use all 14 characters, you can only use 3 at a time, while the others are on reserve. All of the members of Class 0 have unique attributes and capabilities that make them different from one another, which means you will have to plan accordingly depending on the mission at hand. Evading is the name of the game for survival, as does timing your hits to ensure they count, especially when it comes to timing your hits with the break sight, which leads to critical damage, or the kill sight, which very much leads to an instant kill. The combat system feels so refreshing for a Final Fantasy game, more like an updated version of the system for Final Fantasy XII, and that's not a bad idea. You move around and accomplish various missions, which include liberating cities, hunting down enemies, and even infiltration missions. Along the way, you will get to experience war-type scenarios where you will be asked to help the Dominion soldiers assault enemy bases, opening up new possibilities for upgrading your character. Progressing through the story will be in your hands as you decide who to talk to and what missions you will tackle on. And with the various missions and activities offered, you are definitely bound to go for multiple playthroughs. And in case you might be busy, there is a system in the game where you can level up one character while your unit is off, gaining experience during your busy time. Convenience, indeed. And while the gameplay is refreshing in its own right, the story has an interesting take for being so real to the situation of war and death due to political conflicts. In fact, the first 15 minutes of the game alone will already give you a hint about wars and its unfortunate realities. With the move to HD, the visuals never looked better on current-gen consoles from its original PSP version, which is a bonus. With regards to Type-0's soundtrack, it deserved some praises. While the music retained some of the Final Fantasy trademark tunes, it also provided new tunes that fit so well to the mood of the story. When you consider the theme of Type-0 compared to the previous installments, one can easily attribute the level of maturity seen in the story as one that is befitting for this time and age. It manages to up the game in terms of how a story should be told within the confines of an established franchise, a setting that fits well to be highlighted as a modern age Final Fantasy. For how well done the game is, perhaps the only issue that comes to mind is its localization. While it is a remastered version of the original Japanese PSP game, it felt that certain aspects like off-sync voice dialogues and low-res NPC models were off in some scenes. And while it may feel like it needed more polishing, it is not that much of an issue in the grander scale of things as the game continued to deliver. By the end of the day, those Final Fantasy and RPG fans that are craving for an engaging story along with a unique gameplay have finally been answered. Type-0 is one Final Fantasy game that you have been waiting for. This game scores a 4.5 out of 5. Thank you for checking out this review. If you have any thoughts you'd like to share with us, please do share them in the comments section. And if you like what we already made, please do look forward to more stuff in the future. Again, thank you for watching.